Good day, everyone. Good day, our respected panelists. We are excited to share with you our midterm project for ICSC 0113, where we will be exploring one of the most widely used scheduling policies in operating systems, round robin scheduling. Before we dive into the discussion, let me first introduce my groupmates who worked with me on this project. Now I have here Mr. John Patrick Torres, Mr. John Mika Vivar, Mr. Keljan Velasquez, and I am Kim Nicaela Tumabili. Together, we have prepared a presentation that will not only explain the concepts and mechanics of round robin scheduling, but also why it is important and how it is applied in real world systems. To kick things off, let me first walk you through the basic details and foundations of round robin scheduling. Now let's talk about round robin scheduling, or also known as RR. To make it easier for you to imagine, think of it like waiting line at your favorite fast food chain. Each customer in line gets a chance to order, but only within a certain time limit. If they're not finished, they don't really lose the chance to order, but they just go back to the end of the line and wait for their turn again. This is exactly how round robin works. But instead of customers, we are dealing with processes waiting for the CPU time. In this scheduling algorithm, every process is given fixed time slice, or also known as time quantum. The processes are arranged in a circular queue, which means that once a process uses up its time, it goes back to the back of the line while the CPU moves into the next one. The main purpose of round robin scheduling is into twofold: fairness and no starvation. Fairness because in every process it gets CPU time, no one is left behind. No starvation because unlike some other algorithms where a process might wait forever, round robin makes sure that every process eventually gets its own turn. The process keeps moving like a cycle. It has taking turns until each one is completely executed. This makes round robin one of the simplest yet most effective scheduling methods, especially for time sharing systems. Now, let's move on to the example. In this round robin scheduling system, as you can see in the slides, the quantum is automatically set to 3. The processes are P1, which has arrival time of 2, burst time of 4, P2 that has arrival time of 5, burst time of 4, P3 that has arrival time of 0 with burst time of 7, and P4 with arrival time of 3 and burst time of 6. The execution proceeds in time slices of 3 units each. P3 arrives first and runs from 0 to 3, reducing its burst time into 4. Next, P1 runs from 3 to 6 with remaining 1, followed by P4 from 6 to 9 with remaining 3, then P3 that continues from 9 to 12 with remaining 1, and P2 that runs from 12 to 15 with remaining 1. P1 finishes in the next slice at 16. P4 completes at 19, P3 at 20, and lastly, P2 at 21. From these end times, we calculate turnaround time and waiting time. The results are P1 that has turnaround time of 14 and waiting time of 10, P2 that has turnaround time of 16 and waiting time of 12, P3 that has turnaround time of 20 with waiting time of 13, and P4 with turnaround time of 16 and waiting time of 10. The averages are then found with the average waiting time of 11.25 and average turnaround time of 16.5. This demonstrates how round robin ensures fairness by giving each process equal time slices, making it suitable for time sharing systems. However, due to the frequent context switches, it can slightly increase average waiting and turnaround time compared to the other algorithms. This demonstrates how round robin ensures fairness by giving each process an equal time slices, making it suitable for time sharing systems. However, due to the frequent context switches, it can slightly increase average waiting and turnaround time compared to the other algorithms. The trade off is that because of the frequent context switches, the CPU constantly moving from one process to another process, the algorithm may slightly increase both the average time and the average turnaround time compared to the other scheduling methods. In short, round robin prioritizes fairness and responsiveness over absolute efficiency. For the next part, may I call on Mr. John Patrick Torres?
Thank you, Ms. Tumabini. Now, let me explain the features of our program. Since it was developed in Java using Swing, we designed it with three main features to make scheduling easier to understand. Input panel for arrival, burst, and quantum. This part of the GUI allows the user to enter the arrival times and burst times of different processes, as well as the quantum value. By providing these inputs, the program can simulate how the round-robin scheduling will manage multiple processes. The second one is table showing arrival, burst, TAT, and WT. After running the scheduler, the program generates a table that displays important results for each process. This includes the arrival time, burst time, turnaround time, and waiting time. The table makes it easier to compare values and understand how each process was handled by the algorithm. The last one is Gantt chart visualization to give a clear picture of how processes were executed over time. The program draws a Gantt chart. This chart visually represents the timeline of process execution, showing when each process starts and finishes. It helps the user quickly grasp the fairness and distribution of CPU time under the round-robin method. Class and variables. Public class round-robin GUI implements action listener. Uh, we're creating a class called round-robin GUI. So it implements action listener because our GUI will have buttons like run schedule that need to perform action when it click. Uh, Private static JText field arrival equals new JText field 6. This create an array of text field where the user can input arrival times for up to 6 processes. Why? Because in round robin scheduling, each process has an arrival time. So you need text field for the user to enter them. Private static JText field verse equals new JText field 6. This creates another array of text field, this time for burst time of the 6 processes. Why? Because round robin requires burst time to compute scheduling. Private static JText field quantum, a single text field where the user enters the time quantum. Why? Because without the quantum, round robin cannot run. Private static default table model result model. This is the model that will hold our result like turnaround time, waiting time, completion time. Why? Because it allows us to recognize result in a table format. Private static JTable result table. The actual table that will display the result on your GUI. Why? Because we need a visual table so the user can see computed values clearly. The last one is private static JPanel, Gantt panel, a panel that will be used to draw the Gantt chart. Why? In CPU scheduling, Gantt chart visually shows how processes are executed over time. GUI setup. Public static void GUI. We created that method that sets up the graphical user interface or GUI for our round robin scheduler program. Why? Because keeping GUI code inside the method makes it organized and reusable. JFrame FR equals JFrame round robin scheduler. It creates a JFrame window with the title round robin scheduler. Why? Because we need a main window to display our outputs, result, and Gantt chart. FR set default close operation JFrame exit on close. It defines what happens when you click X or close button. Exit on close means the entire program will exit or stop running when the user closes the window. Why? Because without this, the window might close, but your program could still running in the background. FR set size 1000 and 650. Set the size We set the size of the J-frame to 1000 pixels wide and 60 pixel tall. Why? We need enough space to fit all the components like process input, quantum input, result table, Gantt chart, uh, FR set layout table, ay, new border layout. Assign a layout manager to the J-frame. Why? Because it helps us recognize component properly. Example, input fields at the top, result in the center, buttons at the bottom, Gantt chart at the side. Input panel. JPanel input equals new JPanel null. It lets us freely position components using exact coordinates. Well, the other one, input that set preferred size, new dimension 980 and 280. It makes sure the panel has enough space to fit all input fields neatly. Why? Because we want to carefully position the arrival time, burst time, and quantum. Input exactly where we want them on the screen. We also set the tables like P1, arrival time, and burst time beside text fields so that the user know what to enter. In total, the program support up to 6 processes. For the next part, here is Mr. Ribar to continue.
Thank you, John Patrick Torres. For the run button, we have the code JButton run btn, short for button, equals new JButton run scheduler. The J button run btn equals JButton run scheduler. This creates a button labeled run scheduler. This is important because this button is the trigger itself for the program. When the user clicks it, the round robin algorithm will start running based on the inputs it was given, like the arrival, burst, and quantum. For the next line of code is the run btn that set bounds 200, 220, 135, and 25. These are the exact location of the run scheduler button. This is important because this ensures that the bottom is located on the proper place, which is the nearly below the inputs. For the next line of code is the run btn that add action listener hunter. This connects the button to an action listener. Well, this means that when the button is clicked, the program will perform an action. Because without this, the button would just sit there doing nothing. The action listener makes it a functional button. In this case, it should read the inputs, run the round robin logic, and update the table, plus also the Gantt chart. The result table. First, for the first line of code, we have the string, result calls, and with here, we have the process, arrival time, burst time, turnaround time, and waiting time. This create an array of columns named for your columns. This is important because these five here, the process, arrival time, burst time, etc., are the key concept in CPU scheduling. Showing them in a table helps user understand the performance of each processes. For the next line of code is the result model equals new default table model, result calls 0. This creates a table model with a given column header and initially 0 rows first. The default table model acts like the data storage. The data storage is like this is where all the data will be contained in the table. This is important because we need a flexible model, so we can insert rows of result after running the round robin algorithm. For the next line is the result table equals new JTable result model. Basically, this is the result itself. This will display all the process details in the rows and columns. This is important because this will show the user the output or the result clearly in a structured format instead of just text. For the next slide, Gantt chart panel. Now we have the Gantt panel equals new J panel. With this line of code, we are creating a J panel. But instead of a normal panel, we are creating an anonymous inner class because this let us customize the drawing behavior of the panel. Because a normal J panel can only hold components like button and text field. But here we can use a custom drawing area for the Gantt chart. Now we have the at override protective void paint component graphics G. This method is called whenever the panel needs to be drawn or refreshed. The graphics G gives you a pen to draw shapes, text, and line on the panel. This is important because this method overrides the manually draw to let us manually draw the Gantt chart for the rectangles for processes, labels for like the P1 and the P2, and the time marker below them. And for the super the paint components G, it calls the parent class paint component. For this is to ensure that the panel is properly cleared and the background is redrawn before you add custom drawings. This prevents our drawing from overlapping or leaving visual glitches. And after this code, this will be the logic that is contained in the Gantt panel, like the location, how the scale, and the colors that added to differentiate all the processes. Now for the next one is the action performed. Now we have the at override public void action perform action event E. This method comes from the action listener interface. It runs automatically whenever the user clicks a button that has a action listener, which will have the run scheduler button that is mentioned earlier. This is important because this program reacts whenever the user clicks, and it also acts as the entry point for running the round robin computation. And now we have the second line of code, which is the result model that set rows count 0. This is important in the part of the code because it clears all the rows from your result table model. Basically, it reset the table so you don't stack new result. Like every time you run the algorithm, it makes sure that the table start fresh with only the new computed result. And also, the rest of the code is contained here. This is where you put the main logic. It will it will show the process, the inputs, the computing of the schedule, and updating the GUI. And there's also contained here the result table and the Gantt chart. Without this, your run button would not actually execute anything. And for the next part, it will be discussed by Mr. Keljan Velasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Vivar. Now, let us look at the core logic of the round-robin algorithm. In round-robin, each process is allowed to run for either the fixed time quantum or the remaining time it still needs, whichever is shorter. After every run, we record the start and end time so that we can construct the Gantt chart. We then update the process remaining burst time. If the process has not yet finished, it is placed back into the queue, ready to be scheduled again on its next turn. This cycle continues until all processes have been completed execution. After the execution, all processes we move on the computation of the performance metrics. First, we compute the turnaround time using the formula turnaround time is equals to completion time minus arrival time. Next, we compute the waiting time using the formula waiting time is equals turnaround time minus burst time. This computation allow us to evaluate how long each process stayed in the system and how much time it spent actually waiting for the CPU. The values are placed into the result table for each process to make them easier to track and compare. For the next slide, finally, once we have computed the turnaround time and waiting time for all processes, we summarize them by calculating their averages. We take the sum of the turnaround times, divide the number of processes that give us the average turnaround time. We do the same thing for the waiting time to get the average waiting time. In our table, these averages are highlighted in the last row in bold so that they can stand out clearly. These averages serve as summary of the overall performance of the round-robin scheduling. For the next slide, we move to the main method of our program. The main method serves as the starting point of the application. It launches the graphical user interface or the GUI, which allow the users to enter input values such as arrival time, burst time, and quantum, run the scheduler to simulate the round-robin process, and also instantly view the results both in the table and in the Gantt chart for the better visualization. This makes the program more interactive, easy to use, and efficient for understanding how the round robin scheduling work in the practice. Now, we will run the code itself. I'll enter four processes and set the quantum to 3. These are the arrival and burst times. P1 arrival time is equals to 2, burst time is equals to 4. For P2, arrival time is equals to 5, burst time is equals to 4. For P3, arrival time is equals to 0, burst time is equals to 7. For P4, arrival time is equals to 3, burst time is equals to 6, and quantum is equals to 3. But before the algorithm runs, the program validates inputs. Arrival must be greater than or equals to 0. Burst time must be greater than to 0. And quantum must be a positive integer. We will type an invalid value. For P2, burst time will be equals P2 burst time will be equal to S. Then we will run it. If an input is invalid, a pop-up appears telling the users to fix it. For example, please enter integers arrival and burst time. Then we will correct the value and run it again. The value P2 is equals to 4. After clicking the run, the scheduler begins executing in 3 unit slices. Watch the Gantt chart, it shows exactly which process runs when. Execution order P3 will run to 0 to 3 seconds. P1 will run to 3 to 6 seconds. P4 will run from 6 to 9 seconds. P3 will run from 9 to 12 seconds. P2 will run to 12 to 15 seconds. P1 will run to 15 to 16 seconds. P4 will run to 16 to 19 seconds. P3 will run from 19 to 20 seconds. P2 will run from 20 to 21 seconds. From the Gantt chart, we get the end times P1 is equals to 16, P2 is equals to 21, P3 is equals to 20, and P4 is equals to 19. These are the end times we use to compute metrics. Turnaround time is equals to end time minus arrival. For P1, 16 minus 2 is equals to 14. Waiting time is equals to turnaround time minus verse times. So 14 minus 4 is equals to 10. The table shows the same for all the processes. Average waiting time is 11.25 and average turnaround time is equals to 16.5. This summarizes the schedule performance for this input. If inputs had been invalid earlier, the table and the Gantt chart would not generate. The program forces the correction first to avoid incorrect results. That's our round robin demo, fair, predictable time slices, clear visualization, and built-in inputs to check to prevent errors. Now, let's proceed to the conclusion.
Now, thank you so much for explaining our code, Mr. Kel. To sum up what JP, Miko, and Kel have said, in this project, we successfully implemented the round robin CPU scheduling algorithm using Java Swing. Through the program, we demonstrated how processes are executed fairly using fixed quantum, with output shown both in result table that shows arrival time, burst time, turnaround time, and waiting time, and the Gantt chart visualization. This gave us a clear understanding of how scheduling works in practice. We also computed the average turnaround time and waiting time, which highlight the efficiency of round robin. While the algorithm ensures fairness and prevents starvation, it also comes with the trade of frequent context switching. Despite this, our implementation proves how round robin remains a strong choice for time sharing systems where responsiveness is very, very important. For future improvements, our scheduler can be enhanced by supporting more processes, allowing export of results, and further refining the GUI that we have presented for a better usability. Overall, this project not only deepened our knowledge of scheduling algorithms, specifically round robin, but also strengthened our skills in Java programming and teamwork. As we wrap up our presentation, We hope that you have gained a clear understanding of how the round robin scheduling algorithm works, not just a line of codes, but a principle of fairness and balance in process management. Our implementation showed how every process gets its fair share of CPU time, how turnaround and waiting times are computed, and how a Gantt chart helps us visualize the execution flow. More importantly, this project strengthened our teamwork and programming skills as well, while giving us practical insights into what operating system really is. At the end of the day, round robin reminds us that no process and no such thing as person should ever be waiting too long in the queue. That would be all for our presentation, and thank you.